move to the panel discussion on artificial intelligence, role in modern cyber defense strategies. Let's explore how artificial intelligence is redefining cybersecurity defense strategies across industries. Let's put our hands together up for our first panelist, Mr. Maher Kaabi, advisor to Group Chairman and Independent Board Member at Alserkal Group of Companies UAE, Circular Economy Council Member. Can we have you up on the stage, sir, please? We're setting the stage. The next panelist is Mr. Oliver Szimmetat, who's the Director of Security and Compliance TaxBit. The third panelist is Mr. Huzaifa Sidhpurwala, the Senior Principal Product Security Engineer for Red Hat. The fourth panelist is Mr. Abdelghani, Alhijawi, who's the Head of Enterprise Technology Department, Dewan Architects and Engineers. And we have a very fine moderator, Mr. Eliel Mulumba, who is the OT and IT Security Lead Management Consulting Panelist. Can we give a huge round of applause for all these members of the panel discussion, please? I'm sorry, it took a little while for us to set the stage for you guys. It's all for you now. So over to you, Mr. Eliel. Over to you.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be your host for this panel. AI is changing everything, also how we think about cyber defense. So today we would like to discuss with this group of esteemed colleagues if AI is helping to increase cybersecurity or if it's actually increasing our attack surface and risks within organizations. So welcome again, everyone. Really looking forward to this panel. So, I mean, AI is something that is accompanying us since a couple of years now. There's not a week that we miss in which we hear about innovations, about new solutions that are coming to the market. I think ChatGPT has started a lot in the year of 2022, coming from US. We have seen different solutions that are coming from other countries, DeepSeek, Claude, Llama. So a lot of tools that are out there. And I would like to ask you guys, and we can maybe start with Abdelghani, in one sentence, what role does AI play in your day-to-day work?
Basically as head of enterprise technology, AI acts as my strategist tool. For example, automating complex monitoring, spotting risk earlier, and also freeing up my team to focus on strategy, innovation, and of course, keeping our data safe. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Huzaifa, is AI playing a role in your day-to-day work already? How often are you using ChatGPT, DeepSeek, and other tools?
That's an interesting question, right? So there are two things which we do with AI on a day-to-day basis. We are exploring how AI can be used securely and safely. And on the flip side, which is what I think we are here to discuss today, is we are also exploring how AI can be used for security, especially cybersecurity, defense, and both offense. So that's what I do.
Thank you very much. Oliver, quite interested to have your perspective. You have experience from large corporations as Uber, as Microsoft. So if you want to give us your perspective on your AI routine.
Yeah, definitely. We're using AI on a daily basis. For software development, software testing, documentation, but also in cybersecurity for threat detection, analysis. We even started using this to simulate attacks and to do tabletop exercises to see how would we respond, does it make sense, is anything we can do better, and use AI to train our teams to, like Andreas mentioned, incident response, how we can actually build our muscle there and get better at incident response, because thankfully we don't experience incidents that often, once every 3 years maybe. but we want to practice and get better at being able to respond to this.
Thank you very much. Maher, last but not least.
Once every 3 years, that's amazing. It seems to be you guys are not working then. But let me qualify. AI has not been there for a couple of years, by the way. AI has been there for a very long time. AI, if you actually look at the definition of AI, it predates to 1648 with Blaise calculation machine started. I'm doing my second doctorate in AI, so I'm telling you from experience. We used to develop models, but in one sentence, what AI try to do is analyze vast amount of data and make sure give you that inputs of what you require so you can make a foresight, what do you call decision-making process, and make it very simple for you. One quick use case we've implemented at the beginning of this year, I sit on the board of a company which we have done that. We raise capitals. We have a lot of people who are raising capitals. We've got a lot of people who are investors at various stages. So some of them are angel investors, seed investors, round A, B, C, so forth. So what we do with the AI model, which was inside a model developed within the company itself, so we did not rely on ChatGPT and so forth, we match make them. I wouldn't call them AI model, I'll call them all machine learning model, by the way. So we match make them with an accuracy of confidence level of 95%. We're able to accurately do that thing, and now we have faster penetration, access to capital faster to the people who wanted it, where the inflection point happens. So that's what's capabilities that we have today with these models.
Thank you very much for your response, Maher. Oliver, there are a couple of revolutions that we have seen in the IT space. Just talking about computers going live around the 70s, 80s, talking about the .com actually era that started around the 2000s. I remember also the cloud era that started around 2010, and I think when we went COVID, every client was talking about going cloud. So when you're looking at Gen AI, and especially the developments of the past 24 months, would you say that this is the biggest tech revolution that you have ever seen?
I would say yes. I think if we look at other transformations, like you mentioned, cloud and .com, to me, those are basically applications of existing technology to a new business model. So .com was a new way to use TCP/IP for commerce, right? And cloud computing was almost a byproduct of e-commerce. AWS, they were really good at running cloud infrastructure, and they thought maybe we can do this as a business. And Microsoft did the same thing. AI, I think, is quite different because we are still trying to figure out what is the business model or the business models that we can actually apply this on. I think it's going to fundamentally change how we not just develop software, but architect it, design it, and test it, document it, but also it challenges the entire business model of SaaS services, right? Because if you have AI agents, they can replace most of those services. You don't have to define the business logic anymore. You can just ask a model, can you help me with this? And you get the result. And like I said, it's been around for a while, but I think with the emergence of language models and the application of AI to language, I think we've seen this quantum leap almost, right? Where we use it to communicate with language models. We use language to develop software, to address business questions. And I think just the last 6 months, we've seen so many improvements and changes, especially in software development, that it's really difficult to say what's the industry going to look like 5 years from today or even 2 years from today.
Yeah, and Oliver just shared with us the perspective on a global level. And Maher, given the fact that you're quite active in the Middle East region, board member, talking to a lot of organizations, what has been the impact of AI so far on the defense side that you have observed based on your experiences?
As you increase economic activities in a country, that's mean you're more prone to cyber attacks. That's a formula, fixed formula, and particularly if it's a financial activities are there. So if you look at the latest report, just last year and this year, if you speak to Dr. Mohammed Al-Kuwaiti, who is the cybersecurity head for the UAE government, he'll tell you that UAE is ranked number 3 in terms of attacks globally. Now, it's too difficult to fathom that when you have countries like US, China, India, with large economies. But because of so much of economic activities happening over here, we're really getting attacked on daily basis, and that's why we rank 3rd. On daily basis, there are about 200,000 attacks happening. And we've seen a surge of more than 32% in terms of ransomware, just this year, and it's increasing year on year. So what does that entail in that case? That means you have to make sure your guard and defense system are very, very strong, because if you're not, you're going to be extremely vulnerable. The biggest sector which is going to have the vulnerability, which will be your financial system, financial institution, your banking system, where your money is. Then, of course, concurrently, your government, where you have a lot of data, IT, telecom. So Etisalat is one of the companies that we co-founded as a group. We know the number of attacks happening on there on daily basis is huge. So what has company has done over the past, I would say 10 years, or maybe let me go a bit earlier. I was part of Citibank, I was part of Dubai Bank, I was a chief risk officer as well. Out of the 10 units I have, 2 main units was IT security, which is to do with cyber attacks, and fraud detection unit. And how do you make sure that we are able to detect earlier as much as possible? Now, because we were permeated in 100 countries, so we drawn the experiences of all these 100 countries, attacks happening over there, so we get the knowledge immediately, and we would apply it over here. So we helped the local force enforcement in UAE back in 1993 to develop their guardrails. And as years passed by, they become stronger and stronger. With ECERT coming up, TDRA coming up, and now we have cybersecurity as a system, but standalone as a government entity. So they've invested quite a lot in terms of defending themselves. So if you look at the system that they have, and of course they started using AI, it's a cliche word, let's go with the use of the word AI. They're able to use those things now in a positive way, so you're able to detect them very, very quickly. So almost every government entity is on top of it. And you know, UAE had the first AI minister back in 2017. That means we had the foresight before even ChatGPT becomes very popular in November 2022. So, and that was applied to all the government entities. And the biggest challenge that we had is the cultural change, in terms of making sure that your people will adopt and start using these technologies. So that's why there was a program ran to train more than 500 ministers, undersecretaries, government officials on the adoption of the newer technologies, and per se also AI, in order for us to make sure we're ready when we use the technology, we're able to use it effectively. So most of the company, of course, first of all, I need to also qualify, not all countries in MENA or GCC region are on the same platform. Some are in advanced stages, some are adopting it, some are still struggling, to be honest with you, in terms of understanding it, how to put the framework around the AI itself, in terms of making sure they're very strong when it comes to cyber defense.
Thank you very much for sharing your... I will take this one. So, thank you very much for sharing your perspective on the developments here in the MENA region. Huzaifa, let us talk a bit about AI on the cyber defense side. We have just seen a very good presentation from Andreas on the cyber kill chain. What I have understood based on recent developments is that the lead time that is required to infiltrate a company is reducing significantly. From a couple of days, I think on the average 9 to 10 days, a couple of hours, couple of days in certain extent. So how would you say is AI transforming the cyber defense side? Huzaifa.
Okay. So I think the biggest impact which AI has in all the industries is cybersecurity, especially both defense and offense. We have seen special language models being developed, which allows exploits to be developed in a much easier way. So similar to what Andreas mentioned some time back, like, the lead development time to develop a particular exploit is now reduced from days, sometimes maybe months, to even hours. Exploit development requires a lot of expertise, right? You need to be expert about how a particular system works. So for example, if you want to develop something on Windows, you need to know how the Windows operating system works, you need to know how a particular software works, how the exploit mechanism works, and there are so many different versions of Windows and so many patch levels which people are using. So you need to be an expert in all of these. This is something which AI models and AI systems are very good at. Some time back, we were talking with researchers from the University of Boston, and they have developed an agentic system in which they are using off-the-shelf frontier models like maybe Claude and GPT-5 and Llama and all of these models, and they are using an agentic system. And we were told that in order to convert a particular information about an exploit into an actual exploit took them around $4. So this is an extremely small amount. I mean, if you look at how expensive it was to develop exploits previously, it used to take hours, and sometimes it even used to take months. But now it can be done in a couple of hours with these frontier models. And these systems are not really difficult to develop. The models are already available off the shelf. They are coding models. They are language models, and they are models which can do these things on their own. So the time to actually develop these exploits have really gone down. And my personal opinion is that it's a cat and a mouse game, right? I mean, it's always a fight between the attacker and the defender. I feel that currently with AI, and this is my personal opinion, the attacker has got a bigger edge. The reason is that the exploit development market is more lucrative than the defense market. So if I'm able to develop an exploit very quickly, and if I'm able to sell it to the government, if I'm able to sell it to NSA or whoever has the deepest pocket, then that market is more lucrative than trying to defend my system by using AI. So I think this is the biggest trend which we have seen so far.
Thank you very much. I mean, Abdelghani, when we talk about AI, and Oliver was just referring to agentic AI, I mean, this is insane, isn't it? You have an agent that is running tasks, the typical cron jobs that we know from the past, and there's always this discussion about human control and automation. What is the level of confidence that we give to those systems to run operations fully autonomously? I would like to have your perspective on the MENA region. How are organizations actually balancing automation versus human control when it comes to AI?
Yeah, that's a great question. Actually, it's something that we all learning carefully. Basically, across the region, I see organizations are balancing they are taking a balanced and a responsible approach with AI, especially automation. So automation is basically, it's being used for what it does best. For example, handling repetitive and time-critical tasks, like log correlation, threat detection, as well as phishing triage. But at the same time, when it comes to the critical or high-risk decisions or action, here I can see still there is a control which should be oversight by pretty much by the human, or by basically us. And in terms of the government, I see the UAE, Saudi, and other countries are helping in shaping and forming a clear framework for the AI. Basically, these rules focus on the transparency, ethical use, as well as human oversights. So basically, human sides is very important aspects, so they cannot decide to do anything without validation. And also, for example, these frameworks helping to ensure that a human is still playing a major part for this. And we don't want, for example, an AI who just be a black box, making a security decision in its own. Finally, in my view, I think is the smartest organization. They are it treats AI as a tool that amplifying, not substitute, for example. And I think we need just to make sure that we use it safely. Mm-hmm. And one more thing, most importantly, AI, it gives us the speed and the insight, and for us, we need just to make sure to provide the context and the judgment. Thank you.
I mean, you were just referring to a couple of points. So AI or Gen AI is never sick, always on point, always performing, repetitive tasks, never getting bored. So, Oliver, I'm asking myself, what else can AI do that we humans are not able to do?
When I think about When I think about cybersecurity, especially application security, cloud security, it's a lot about risk management, right? And risk management is a lot about probabilities and prediction of incidents, right? And I think that's something where AI is typically very good at, right? To look at data and to make predictions and to calculate probabilities. So it can really help us to understand risks. And when I think about risks in application security, right, you have vulnerabilities and there's a risk of an exploit. But there's also a risk of breaking your application if you patch it. And that's why there's reluctance to do patching, right? Because it's taking time away, right? It might break your product, it's maybe not reliable, and people are very hesitant to do so. And AI can actually help to not just calculate the risk of an attack, but also the risk of breaking things. And then you can find the sweet spot of vulnerabilities that have a low risk of breaking anything, but a high risk of getting exploited. I think the real power comes in once AI understands the context of your applications, your services, your business, and to me, that's where a lot of AI-based tools are still lacking, right? You have cloud security tools, vulnerability management tools, and they scan your infrastructure, and then maybe they send all this data to a language model, and you can ask questions, but they don't fully understand the context. And I think that's where the defenders can actually be ahead of the attackers. Right now, like you said, attackers have the upper hand, right? They can quickly develop attacks. They don't have to ask procurement or compliance, can I use this tool? Right? They can just do it and break stuff. But I think on the defensive side, AI can really help to fully understand context, and with the context, get a much better understanding of the risks involved, and then be more preventive and address those risks. Google just released a service that's looking at source code, and it can not just identify security vulnerabilities in the code, but also fix them and test the fix, right? And that's really powerful. And of course, the same can be used by attackers, right? But if you can protect your context and things like your source code, I think that's actually very powerful for the defense. So in general, I wouldn't say that AI is better at doing this, but of course it can do it at a much larger scale and much faster. Right?
And Maher, I'm just thinking about my way to the venue. I have been with an Uber driver who was just telling me that on the right side are there's a transportation company that's running obviously already in Abu Dhabi with autonomous cars. And I was telling him, how do you approach or embrace actually this new autonomous technology? And he was saying, I'm not happy about that because they're taking away our jobs. And there is a similarity when we look into AI in the field of information technology. We just heard that AI is capable of doing tasks that we as humans are not able to do. And many of you here might also ask yourself, am I still going to be required in the future or not? So I'm trying to understand from your perspective, how can we build trust in systems that are going to be able to take their own decisions based on an educated guess?
I think, first of all, we need to appreciate that whenever there's an industrial revolution going on, there will be certain shift in certain jobs. Starting with robotics coming to in 1920s being used by Ford's motors. There have been certain shifts because assembly line were created, robots were creating cars. But at the same time, over a period of years, new jobs got created as well. Similarly, it's going to happen with AI. Of course, if you look at any reports by BCG, Harvard Business, even the World Bank, they'll tell you there's going to be a displacement of, and these are very high numbers, about 93 million jobs going to be displaced. But they also talk positively that new jobs will be created also in the tune of 60 to 70 million. Now, take this number with a pinch of salt, but the message is displacement going to happen, but new jobs will be created. What is the messaging I would like to give, which is emanating from the messaging of the Crown Prince Sheikh Hamdan of Dubai? He said, we need to make sure that we use AI for the benefit of the human being and not displacing them. Meaning, we need to make sure we reskill our people for the new jobs that we have today and elevate their job status into different things they need to do and leave the monotonous job to be carried out by the machine. And we have been seeing that over the last 30, 40 years, by the way, so it's not something new. The only impact we see today with AI and advent of AI being there, it's accelerating the way job markets might be getting displayed in the future. It's not yet there, but it's happening. So for example, you hear a lot of news. I'm not answering your question yet, but I'll come to that. You see a lot of news in the US saying it. Google has going to let go of 6,700 people. Amazon is doing the same thing. By the way, if you drill down the report further and you speak to the people over there, this is not related to automation or AI purely. It's because they overhired already in the beginning. And now they're automated. You know, you probably heard the terms RPA, which has been there for the last 30, 40 years as well. So continuous automation led to these jobs displacement, and not just because of AI. Because still, there are other studies saying that AI is not in the full use. And I think Oliver, touched upon it very quickly. Now, coming back to your question, how do you establish trust given that we know the background over here? AI is very strong in terms of analyzing vast amount of data. Billions amount of data, which will take us light years for us to analyze as human beings, particularly in a cyber defense since we're discussing that. So what do you want AI to do? To automate the jobs that human can do. And I'll give you a quick example of what we used to do back in 1998. This is when AI was not even there. We used to build algorithm in banking system. This is back in Citibank. We said, okay, and this was, we call it a behavior mechanism of detection anomalies. So if you use your credit card in X place in UAE or in Dubai, and after a few minutes you use another physically in another 10 minutes, another place, and we know the distance between both places is minimum 1 hour, that means there's a problem. So what we used to do, we used to flag them. But given that we were doing them manually, i.e. the system will give us the trigger and somebody would manually call to verify, that took a lot of time. That means you would have slippages of actual fraud going on. But now with the AI, we're able to make these responses very quickly. So we're passed away from deduction. We're, I think, talking about predictive modeling now, which is very important. Now, I think Andreas have laid down very nicely for this question. What are the, I would say, orchestration available today globally? There are many frameworks of you doing it. But the very first thing is AI able to predict. And the third part will come to that thing, which is important as well. But then automatic response becomes even paramount to that, because you need to respond very quickly to block certain things very quickly on your systems. So you need to make sure that you kill them. Third, which is much more important, AI able to do through human intervention being in place, which is the adaptive learning of whatever you had in the past, put it back in the algorithm and continuously learn and learn and learn. So your trust will not be enabled immediately, but it's going to be a journey that we need to build. It's not going to be a day one or day two. It's going to be a continuous learning that we need to do. That's why the human element in the loop make the trust even stronger, because certain anomalies have to come to human beings to verify them. But at least you take care of the vast amount of learning that already happened by the system itself.
Thank you very much. I mean, before also handing over the time to you guys to ask a couple of questions, I would like to close with Huzaifa. If I would be a CEO and listening to the conversation here and not being convinced about AI and Gen AI, I think after this panel, I would run away with conviction to integrate this into my organizational strategy. So I would like to understand from you, Huzaifa, how or what role should AI play in modern cyber defense strategies of organizations nowadays?
Right. Before I answer the question, while Oliver and Mr. Maher were talking, I mean, there were some thoughts in my head. So, for example, there is a saying in my company saying that you will not be replaced by AI, but you will be replaced by people who know AI. So I mean, that's an important thing. And what Oliver just mentioned is that OpenAI recently released a tool called Artwork. I'm not sure if you guys have seen that. It's a limited release. Only few people have access to that, and it's a complete exploit development system. So what it basically does is it takes the code base from GitHub and it finds exploits, it finds security issues with it, it develops exploits, it writes a patch to fix the exploit, and it files a PR, and it does the end-to-end work. So what a typical developer or what a typical security engineer can do. So these are the capabilities which we are looking at right now. Coming back to a quick question, I think looking at it broadly, there are 4 things which AI is capable of doing from a cyber defense point of view right now. And I think we have discussed a few points already. So one thing is automation of threat detection. How conventional tools basically work is they look at pattern detection, like that's how antivirus softwares and malware basically works. But that's not enough, because there's a large amount of telemetry data which is created by any IT system. And bigger the IT system, the more the amount of data. And you need having a human to look at the logs or having a human to look at telemetry data is very expensive and error prone. So that is one thing which AI can definitely do. Second is being able to automatically remediate issues. And maybe we should start with looking at low risk issues. Like, if there's a new employee who is trying to log in multiple times to a system to which he does not have access, maybe we should lock him out. Maybe we should send him a nice email saying, please don't do this. So these are things which AI can do right now. We are also using AI for proactive things, like what Oliver just mentioned, that it's used for code development. It's also used for finding security issues with code. It's used to scan systems. They already are scanners which can scan configurations, but then AI can add a lot of intelligence. And last but not least, it can help security teams. As I think Andres mentioned, the salaries are very good, which means people are very expensive. So you cannot afford a bigger security team. What AI can definitely do is it can help a smaller security team do more work in a more intelligent way. So I think those are the basic things which we should probably look at.
Thank you very much. And I have been told that we just have a couple of minutes before closing this panel. A very lovely discussion. We would like to give you guys the opportunity to ask a couple of questions that you have based on what you have just listened.
There. I'm sorry, I'm running.
Good morning, gentlemen. Thank you very much. Very insightful. Mr. Huzaifa, I have a very interesting thing. You talked about automation of threat detection. Are there particular services that you know or you're familiar with that can help secure basically servers, or you could put on your applications that will help with that threat detection?
Right. There are no publicly available services or systems as far as I know of. I was recently talking with head of Google vulnerability response, and she basically told me that they have developed their own internal system which can look at packets coming from the network. It can look at other things also. But as far as I know, there are no systems which are commercially available. There are systems which are doing that. So for example, if you are using one of the software which we use internally is called Sneak. Sneak basically it's used to scan your code base and find security issues. So it is AI enabled now. There are a lot of commercially software which are doing that. But I feel that a lot of this information is like custom developed inside companies. And maybe in the next 1 year or 2 years, as technology grows, we will be having a lot of commercial software also. I think the basic problem which we are facing right now is these models need GPU to run, right? And running them on edge is a problem. So as we have smaller models and as we have better infrastructure, I think in the next 2 or 3 years, we should see a lot of off-the-shelf commercially available software which can do this via AI.
I request the team to remain up on the stage for a picture, because we would love to capture this moment. Can we all give it up for the panelist and the moderator, please? Can we all please stand up and take a picture?